Hey you, I'm Casual and this is Guns Up Mobile. Today we'll do an equipment guide and go over all the different bits of equipment you can put on your units, you can put in their kit. All this equipment is available to unlock through chests or through playing the game normally. Sometimes you get drops from doing raids. The only exception there would be Fang and Incendiary rounds. These are seasonal weapons and can only be acquired through battle passes. You can also buy equipment sometimes in the daily deals. Uh, I don't recommend this again because you can acquire all this equipment through just regular playing. Don't be impatient. Just wait. You'll get it. Uh, I have, I've got loads of some of these equipments. I have 123 energy badges and 109 infinite ammo round bandoliers. So you'll get them, and it's a pain in the it's a royal pain to break them down. So you're going to be collecting probably a few of them unless you're very meticulous about cleaning your inventory. So let's get into this. Go over what the equipment does and which units it's best for. Let's start with body armor. Body armor is a pretty much required tank item. Anytime you have, anytime you have, bounty hunter, riot, trailblazer. I also use it for my supports, just so they don't die on the field. There's obviously also other interesting things you can give them, but I think body armor, at least if you just want to make sure they don't die, and you don't want to invest too much valor into them, into unlocking their slots, and yeah, just give them a vest and they'll be fine. The values for body armor, maximum amount is 72%. Now, if you want to really look at this, level 5 body armor is a 46% increase. Level 10 body armor is a 58% increase. So that's, you know, that. And a level 15 body armor is a 67% increase. So you're getting 14% increase from level 10 to 15. You just factor that into how much you're willing to invest in upgrading these things. It's relatively easy when you have a low level bit of equipment. Level 5 and you get 46%. And that can be substantial for a lot of units that are tanky and have a lot of hit points. And you're paying, 11 upgrade books and 36 common equipment for that next 3%. That's pretty good, but you're looking at level 15 and how much that's going to cost you to upgrade, and you're looking at 171 books and 444 common equipment just to get you 1%, and the maxed out value is 72. So buyer beware, consider what you're paying for. As obviously this affects high level units more than low level units. Once all my units reach level 20, I really won't have any other way to progress them other than to upgrade their equipment. So as a general rule, level 5, you just get that real quick burst of increase. Level 10, you can just work for that because that's a pretty good point. And then level 15, if you really need it. So for instance, my bounty hunters are my main defense, so I'm going to get to level 15 on them, on their equipment. And then level 20, I'll think about that later. Thank you. So that's body armor. Just as an example, um, I will show you how to take a look at this. So you have Trailblazer. It shows right here they have 7,876 health, and that's with a level 13 equipment body armor. What that really means is at level 19 they have 4,803 health, and then because it's level 13 body armor, which is giving them something like, I don't know, 74%, 75% increase, you're looking at, I'm sorry, 65% increase, you're looking at an extra 3,000 health. So That's where the total comes from. Okay. Next bit of equipment, we have coffee. Coffee is another excellent bit of equipment for your defensive units. In fact, any kind of units you have that are going to be spawned from your tents. This reduces the cooldown of their spawn time. So it's good in raid if you have a very long spawn a unit with a very long spawn cooldown. For instance, a riot has very long spawn cooldown. So if you want to get a whole bunch of riot out onto your field, you want to give them coffee. This will reduce their cooldown considerably. And for units, this really affects the units that are, obviously, the more cooldown you have, the more this affects them. But the low cooldown units, it can be very useful for them too, because it can get them out really, really fast, especially out of those tents, because the the amount of units you put out on defense is a little bit different than the way they come out on raid. So coffee max value is 35%. Level 11 coffee is going to give you 26%. Again, consider how much you're getting. That 35% does add up, especially when you consider the double time. That's when there's only 2 minutes left in the raid. Double time literally doubles the spawn speed of your units. That means if they were spawning once every 20 seconds, they're now spawning once every 10 seconds. And coffee has an effect on that as well. So you can really get your guys out quickly. It's a very, very must have piece of equipment on your defensive units. Next bit of equipment is coin. This is a very controversial and silly bit of equipment. I personally don't like it all that much. You're looking at a 30% chance to block one bullet every 5 seconds. And that's every 5 seconds only if it actually hits you. So if you're looking at fighting mercenaries, let's say, mercenaries will shoot, you know, once every, well, they'll shoot once every second, and they'll shoot a burst of 3 once every second. So pretty much every time they shoot at you, they're gonna burst that coin, they're gonna proc that coin, and you have 5 seconds left of taking hits from mercenaries before it procs again. On the other hand, if you're going up against something like, let's see, where are they? There, snipers, they they shoot once every 2 seconds, and then there's a 4 second reload time. So if you're looking at low level snipers, it could actually work, I guess. Even against high level snipers, it can kind of have some benefit for you, but I'm not a big fan of coin. It's a 30% chance. Why it's 30% if it's every 5 seconds? You might as well just have a 100%, honestly, because you still have that long cooldown. This double chance to proc is really silly for an item that doesn't really do anything other than stop one bullet. Discount. Discount is, again, one of the most useful bits of equipment for your team. It decreases the cost of your units. Now, again, this really affects the units that are the most expensive. So Riot, this greatly affects them. Does it affect your your grunts? Yeah, it affects your grunts, but you're spending, it's the difference between spending 40 energy for your grunts or 25 energy for your grunts. It's not that much of a difference, and you can't really spam the field with them uh, to that degree anyway. So a 44% decrease in the cost of your of your riot is basically getting 2 riot for the cost of 1. And with, let's say, something like coffee, which gets them out a third faster, you can really pump those units out onto the field very quickly. Very useful item. Is it the most DPS useful item? There's a trade-off. Do you give them, do you give, let's say, your Rocketeers double tap, where they shoot? There's a chance that they'll shoot 2 missiles, they'll fire 2 missiles, or do you give your Rocketeers a discount and you can get more of them out onto the field? And basically, you get two of them out there, and then they're guaranteed to fire two missiles. But you have to also factor in the fact that they're using your population limit, you know, your summon limit, and they're also factoring in the spawn cooldown of those units as well. So it is very, very useful. It'll get you through a lot of those. They'll get you through a lot of the zombie, and I'm probably going to refer to that quite often. Get you through those zombie missions, zombie mode battles sometimes, because you'll need to. If you have a very expensive unit, but you know that if you can get a whole bunch of them onto the field, you can really easily win that level. Discount's a way to go because you just spend less. Your energy in that mode is very precious. So any chance you can take to reduce how much it's going to cost you to get guys out on the field is very useful. Next we have double tap. Let's make sure. Yep, double tap is the next bit of equipment. This is very, very useful bit of kit. 63% chance to fire off another projectile. So level 10 it's 44%. At level, excuse me, at level 20 it's 63%. So there's another 20%, about 20% increased chance between level 10 and level 20. You're basically getting 2% every level for this. But it's 63%. You're guaranteed 63% of the time you're going to fire two projectiles out of that unit. If that's sharpshooter, that's sniper, that's rocketeer, two rockets, two sniper shots, two sharpshooter shots. That's a huge, huge DPS increase for units like commandos. It's massive because you're firing two bullets for the price of one, and one of commando's biggest issues is that they have a very long reload time, and then they have this really long spin up time for their barrels. And so every bit of DPS you can do before you go through that cycle of reloading, aiming, spinning, and then firing is incredibly, incredibly useful to accomplish. So you could put double tap on your guys along with other DPS gear. You can, like high caliber rounds and incendiary rounds, you can clear out your enemies and then worry about reloading your shots as opposed to anything else you could put on them. Very, very useful piece of equipment. For Rocketeers, it's fantastically hilarious. They fire two rockets, which don't always hit the same target, but because the whole purpose of Rocketeers is that they cause a lot of collateral damage. Get a whole bunch of Rocketeers together. They all have double tap. They all fire at a single unit, focus fire them onto a single target, and they just erase an entire field because those rockets are going everywhere. They do tons and tons of damage. Next bit of equipment, extended magazine. I'm not even going to bother going through this one, I don't think, because I don't have I don't have a single upgraded extended magazine bit of equipment to equip on anyone. That's what I think of extended magazine. Vampire Fangs. Okay, almost a 40% chance to heal from doing damage. So level 10, it's a 29% chance. Level 20, it's a 39% chance. I was asked, should I do I recommend upgrading to level 15 or upgrading to level 20 on equipment? Which gear should I leave at level 10? And you know, it's really up to you. What can you afford to do? What do you feel you can afford to do? Is the 10% increase in lifesteal, is it that important to you at the time? Level 10 is easy. You can get to level 10. You should prioritize getting to level 10 on your equipment because that's a huge benefit for the cost. Whereas level 15 is just, if you really need that unit, you should focus on that. level 20 is, I would say, just in general, end game once you have nothing else to do and you run out of things to upgrade your equipment. But you know, the basic upgrades you should definitely do. Fang's incredibly useful piece of equipment. It it really depends on how you want to use it. Defensively, it's great. You can put it on your defensive units, especially your veterans. You can keep your veterans alive when they're doing defense. Units like your chemists benefit from that greatly because they do a lot of damage, but also uh, your chemist will also heal from the persistent damage that the toxic or the poison is doing. So very good item for them. Commandos probably the highest DPS unit in the game, I think, and they greatly benefit from this because they're doing a lot of damage. They have a lot of hit points. They have a mechanic that makes them do more damage when they're low on hit points. So kind of anything that keeps them in that threshold between uh, doing a lot of damage and not doing a lot of damage is very useful. Does it hamper their DPS? Yes. So one of the things you can do is you put this bit of equipment in the radio tower, or put the body armor in the radio tower. But you can put this equipment in the radio tower, and so put all your veterans around the radio tower. And now, even though they're, or put something else there, put double tap in the radio tower, and just figure that into your veteran lineup. On offense, it's useful, but you can also summon medics. You can summon um, surgeons, where you can just have a discount on units and not really care if they die. You can just send them out there and just keep having wave after wave, as opposed to worrying about whether or not they can keep themselves alive with Vampire Fang. Oh dear, gone too far. Excuse me. Gas mask. This is a controversial bit of equipment. Now, the one useful thing it does really is it prevents poison damage, or it grants poison status immunity, which means that when the chemists attack you, they don't leave that lingering cough, they don't leave that lingering damage that's done by the poison after they attack you. That's beneficial to you because they also don't heal off it. But in general, it's beneficial because you're not constantly your unit's not constantly stopping because it's coughing, and it's not losing DPS, and it's not losing effectiveness because it's constantly coughing. Even if it can't heal itself, you're not constantly taking damage when you can't do anything about it. So is it good? I mean, it's going to interfere with your DPS, and it's not the best equipment for support units. So do you put it on people? I guess maybe if you have a specific lineup you're going up against, maybe you want to put that on there. Um, Flamers are generally immune to the poison effect. Chemists are immune to the poison effect, and um, Trailblazers with their first mastery are immune to the poison effect. So, or should be theoretically. So think about that before you invest in this bit of equipment. I'm currently having it on my Rocketeers just because I can, and I think it's fun, and we'll see how that goes because I just really don't want them to stop and have to, they already takes them forever to fire the rockets. So if they get hosed down with the chemists, so I just want them to fire. So I'm just trying this out. It's working okay. I don't really care. Um, Gas mask also has the effect, which I guess is supposed to be the primary effect, at reducing smoke, stun, smoke gas bomb, smoke bomb, whatever, effect duration. I find this to be not very useful in general. Headhunter badge. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this one. I don't use it. I've struggled to find ways to make it useful. Uh, if you have a whole bunch of tanks on your team and then you have one DPS unit that you're pretty much guaranteed to get kills with, I guess it could work, but you really have to weigh that against the fact that you're losing DPS on your DPS unit just to have this bit of equipment. And I don't know how to square that circle with you. So it's up to you. I don't recommend this. I don't really find this to be a useful bit of equipment. I don't see other people using it against me. So high caliber rounds. Again, one of the most ubiquitous and useful bit of equipment. You get 60% at level 11. You get 72% at level 20. You're paying a lot of, you're paying a lot for that extra 9 levels and 12% damage increase. Is 12% damage increase a lot? It's about the same damage increase that you get from leveling up your units at any point in time. So generally, every time you level your units, it's about 10% increase from one level to the next. So is this worth it? Again, if you're at endgame, you have nothing else to do, go for it, I guess. But high caliber rounds is incredibly useful. It's a huge, huge, huge boost to your DPS. There's very few offensive units that can do without this bit of gear. In fact, I don't know any purely offensive unit that can do without this bit of gear. So upgrade that. It's always useful. Next, we have incendiary rounds. It's another, like Fangs, it's another seasonal item. Incendiary rounds adds additional fire damage to your current damage. It's not going to show up on your DPS. So, for instance, this 366 damage does not factor in the incendiary rounds. It's actually, so once the mercenary shoots, it's an extra 30, 20. At level 10, an extra 20% increase on top of this. It's an extra like 60 damage. That's fire. And that also means that it's calculated separately from your normal damage. So the mercenary does ballistic damage, and then there's an extra 10, 20% of fire damage if you're shooting at something that is weak to fire. They'll take the ballistic damage at 366, and then they'll take depending on how weak they are, let's say they'll take an extra 120 in fire damage. They're very weak. So this is a very useful bit of equipment for these units. And then there's Mercenary, who also benefits from the fact that the enemy is on fire when they do damage. So if you use Mercenary with incendiary rounds, the first bullet hits, lights the enemy on fire, and the next bullets that hit also benefit from the fourth passive. So very, very useful bit of equipment for certain units. Very useful. Again, Commando is one of the highest DPS units in the game, and if you give him any more damage, he's just that much more useful. Just to remind you, incendiary rounds will trigger the Trailblazer skill that heals them when they take fire damage. So be careful. Be careful with that one. Infinite rounds. Very good, very niche bit of equipment. So what this does, there's a 73% chance at max to reload 46% of your ammo when you get a kill. Theoretically, on defense, this could be a pretty good item. If your unit is sitting there and it's got a lot of damage, let's say like a commando, and it's in a nice tank trap in a corner behind a rock and it's killing a whole bunch of guys, every time it kills a guy, it's got a huge bit of chance to reload the ammo and just keep firing. Again, if you the whole problem you have with your unit is that there's a long cooldown between running out of ammo and firing again, then infinite rounds is a great way to just keep constantly firing without ever having to stop. So for this bit of kit is useful for commandos and MGs when doing zombie mode. You can give this to commando, and then they'll just start killing, and then as they're killing, they kill more, and as they continue to kill, every time they kill a zombie, they're reloading their ammo, and their chances are they're reloading more ammo than they spent killing that zombie. So just really good bit of equipment for that. For other things like offense, not that great, uh, just because your unit's constantly moving, and so they're constantly starting and stopping anyway, regardless. Um, for defense, it's not great also, but I guess you could try it out if you want to. For a lower level bit of equipment, this does 60% chance at level 11 to reload 37% of your ammo. That's again, it's pretty good. Do you want to go the rest of the way to 20? I don't know. I think this is pretty good considering how often you kill things. So yeah, it's infinite rounds. Sights. Uh, I also don't have any upgraded versions of this bit of equipment. It doesn't seem to be very useful at all. I can't really find any uses for it. The units that are not accurate generally, it's okay for them not to be accurate. Like Rocketeers, yeah, it kind of sucks that they don't always hit their target, and you want to give them accuracy so they're hitting their target. But part of the fun of the Rocketeers is that they do so much collateral damage. What you really want to do with them is get a whole bunch of them together, and then focus fire on something, and then just have them destroy things. If they all were very, very accurate and they hit exactly the target they wanted to hit, it's almost actually a waste of DPS because they're not benefiting from all the collateral damage they could be doing with their inaccuracy. Um, just the one last note, like bombardiers are notoriously bad at aiming. Their accuracy is just atrocious. It's 25%. But if you made them more accurate, you still hit their target, mm, but then they'll also hit their target. What you kind of want to do, like the bombardiers don't do area damage, you might actually want them to hit their target. But um, this 72% chance, 72% increase to accuracy is a 72% increase on top of 25% accuracy. It's not additive. That's plus 72% of 25%. So you're looking at a total of 45% with the item. So it's still bad accuracy. Uh, what you really want with bombardiers is double tap, and that kind of gives them a bit of a AOE, area of effect component to their shooting because now you have two projectiles that you're firing, and they're not always going to go into the same spot. So chances are you're going to hit something else other than the target that you want, but that's also great because you can get a whole bunch of bombardiers together, focus fire again, and do collateral damage. And in this game, sometimes you really want to do collateral damage. Taped magazine. It's a niche item. I don't recommend it for commandos. I don't recommend it for MGs. I do recommend it for Rocketeers. Rocketeers, because they only have one shot in their magazine. So once they fire their one shot, they have to reload, and their reload time is very long. So you want to give them, it's essentially giving them taped magazine is a really good way to get them to fire faster. So I just took it from 2.87 seconds to 1.87 seconds. It's a huge boost to their fire rate, especially. And then if I can bring a sergeant onto my team as well, it's another 20% increase or decrease to their reload time. So for Rocketeers specifically and units like that, like the Grenadiers, Tape magazine is essentially the equivalent of tune-up kit. It's the equivalent of increasing their fire rate. So it's very, very useful bit of equipment for certain units. And I do believe this is wrong or not. No, no, I think it's fine. Tape magazine, this is the one that's wrong. I'm sorry. So tape magazine, it increases the speed at which your units fire. This is very, very useful bit of equipment for units like bombardiers who already fire relatively quickly actually, and then giving them more fire rate. Yeah, sorry, this graphic is incorrect. The maximum fire rate increases 74%, which is fantastic. So these guys already fire at 1.7 per second, and you can almost double that speed. They have a magazine that's size 6, and you just want them to empty out that clip. They do have a pretty slow reload time, but that's okay because you can have a whole bunch of them on the field, and they're going to empty out very quickly, rapid succession, a whole bunch of DPS out into the enemy. Very useful bit of equipment for commandos. Tune-up kit's good for commandos. Tune-up kit's good for MGs. Tune-up kit's good for mercenaries. Tune-up kit's good for basically anybody you want doing DPS. Is great for scouts. It's good for sharpshooters. The faster you can get those big shots out, even if it's still kind of slow. I mean, this is 0.47 with the tune-up kit, but then you're looking at 2.81 with the tune-up kit for the sharpshooters, which is very, very big improvement. Yeah, very, very useful. There's some of these items like high caliber rounds, tune-up kit, body armor. These are just incredibly good items. They're essentially effective and for all units. With the exception of, let's say, they're not good for Rocketeers because it's not the mechanism for Rocketeers. And I really don't know how they function for Flamers. Flamers are just very, very odd. Yeah, same goes for Chemists. I don't think they're very good for Chemists either. Oh, Volunteer Badge. I think we're at the end, yeah. Volunteer Badge is a really interesting bit of equipment. It gives you a 43% at max chance to summon another unit. So on defense, this is really good because discount doesn't work on defense. So you can't. There's only 2 ways to improve the way you summon. 3 technically, I guess, but really 2 ways in terms of equipment to improve the speed at which you summon units on defense. One is coffee, and the other is volunteer badge. By the way, major hustle does not work on tents, so just know that you need coffee. Volunteer badge is another way. It gives you a chance for every individual unit in your squad just to summon another unit. So let's take a look at my bounty hunters who have a level 15 volunteer badge. It's a 38% chance to summon another, and bounty hunters summon 2 units at base. That means each one of them has a 38% chance to summon another one. So I mean, I'm looking at something like 80% chance to get at least 3 guys out whenever they spawn, and also a chance to summon 4 guys when they spawn. Very, very useful for defense for sure. Very useful for. I used it for a very long time. I'm just kind of trying out some stuff now with Riot because I wanted to get more Riot out on the field as quickly as possible. Coffee's great, discount's great, but really, yeah, discount's great, but it lets me summon more of them ultimately, and have each one cost less. But if I paid the full amount, I can potentially summon two, which is maybe okay. I don't know. If Riot summoned more units at the same time, then Volunteer Badge would be more useful. This is really good for units that summon more than one, but also, if you want more zombies, get a Volunteer Badge on your Mad Scientist, and then you get two Mad Scientists potentially for the price of one, and then you end up with more zombies on the field. But on offense, it's going to use up uh, your team, max your team limit. So be careful with that. And if I find it to be very unreliable, let's say in zombie mode, because you can potentially spawn four squads worth of units, and not a single one of them could potentially spawn an extra unit especially if your volunteer badge is a low level. This is one of those uh, pieces of equipment you pretty much have to get up to high levels in order for it to even start becoming effective. At low levels, it's essentially just a waste of resources. You give it to somebody you give it to them with a 10% chance of summoning an extra unit. It's basically nothing, uh, and you're still paying full price for your unit to be summoned. So, discount over volunteer badge, but discount has no effect on defense mode. So, volunteer badge on defense mode, you don't always need two sergeants. You don't always need two colonels, although it's nice, if you can just summon once and end up with two colonels. That's pretty much, I think, what you need ultimately for the entire mission. Whereas um, sharpshooters, units that have a long cooldown, yeah, I can give them discount and they'll cost less, or I can give them volunteer badge, just get more of them out, because really what you want is you want to overwhelm your enemy with DPS. You just want to get more guys out. So consider your strategy, consider the way you play. Definitely get this, if you're going to use it, definitely get it up to high levels, because anything that has a percent chance of happening is much more useful at a high level. Infinite rounds, even coin, uh, volunteer badge. These are all double tap. Again, this is not a bit of equipment that's good at low level. If you have a 15% chance to get uh, another shot out, it's not very useful compared to, let's say, a tune-up kit. Just gets more shots out. The only good thing is that double tap, to say, doesn't use up ammo, so you can get more shots out without reloading. Okay, great, but you have to level this up, because anything that has a chance of happening needs to be leveled up, so it essentially becomes effective. At low level, it's not effective. All right, that's covered everything. Yeah, yeah, that's everything. It's all my gear. All right, see you next video.